Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Let's all join together in the words of Lechu Neranana.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
A force of nature, a Goliath, a diva, a darling. Has anyone given you a metaphor that you never thought about for yourself, but once they gave it to you, it fit? That is what we will delve into tonight. Rabbi Dan Levin was given a book by Rashina Taub called The Conductor. It has become a metaphor for him that has stuck. She thinks he may have heard it before, that someone else had told him that that was the role of someone in a position like his. But with this book, The Conductor, whose images you will see throughout the night, this stuck. It guided him in understanding his role and how we interact with him. In The Conductor, a poetic, wordless, illustrated book by Letitia DuVernay, a man climbs to the top of the tallest tree to first conduct the leaves of the tree and then the foliage of other trees. And then the leaves swirl and morph into winged birds, taking flight and interacting with one another across the book's pages. Once the trees are barren, the conductor takes his bow and returns to the earth, planting his baton in the ground. Most poignantly, the baton begins to sprout leaves of its own, suggesting that inspiration will emerge from it in the future. As Rashina says, when I asked her why she gave Rabbi Dan this book, she said, the humility of the conductor to interact with the natural world silently and through intentional actions reminds me of Rabbi Dan. He's a master communicator, envisioning ways for each of us congregants to take flight spiritually, guiding us to experience the world more fully and energetically. Just his presence in any space is instrumental to the benefit of others. How blessed we are to have Rabbi Dan in our lives. How blessed we are. Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to ask Amy, I have the book here. Thank you. We have it hidden. So the book arrived a few weeks ago. His copy arrived years ago from Rashina. And I'm looking through this book, and all of a sudden I realize that in the lobby, the Zach Oxman sculpture that we have just dedicated is full of flying books. It is the imagery of this book, The Conductor, and the imagery of that sculpture in honor of Rabbi Dan's 25 years that I realize are connected. Whether you read the book or you look at the sculpture, when you think about Rabbi Dan, your heart soars. You think about all the times that you have celebrated with him, all the times he has comforted you, all the times he has conducted you when you were not sure how to feel or where to go or how to find hope. And so this imagery of those authors who are listed on the sculpture in the hall and the imagery of the book stand behind everything we will try to convey tonight. Leonard Bernstein said that the chief requirement of the conductor is that he be humble before the composer, that he never interpose himself between the music and the audience, that all his efforts, however strenuous or glamorous, be made in the service of the composer's meaning, the music itself, which after all is the whole reason for the conductor's existence. God is the composer, we are the music, and Dan is the conductor. We are so thrilled to celebrate you tonight. We invite you at this time to share greetings of Shabbat Shalom with those around you. At this time, we will move to Zoom. Is on the screen. We will welcome Ari Levin to lead us in Candles and Kiddush this evening. Ari, take it away.
Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. We continue with Kiddush.
Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidkanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikraye kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodecha ve'ahavra uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
L'chaim. Thank you, Ari. It is appropriate that Rashina Taub, of all people, gave Rabbi Levin, this book, because she and her husband's family together have had 4 generations that have witnessed life at Temple Bethel. And that began before Rabbi Levin or I or many of us were here with Rabbi Singer. And so we begin the evening in the most appropriate of ways with the words of our Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi Merle Singer.
It's a true pleasure to be here tonight to worship with you. And I need Dan's help, so Dan, come on over. Ari, I don't know if you're still watching this, but hopefully you are, because I have a grandson who's 13 and he now throws the ball, pitches the ball at 70 miles an hour. So we'll talk about that later. Dan, this night means a lot to me. And to have you here recalls the meeting that we had 17 years ago on this bema, when I gave you the Torah to you, and you embraced not just the Torah, but its message, its stories, its teachings, its way of life. And then tonight, earlier this afternoon, you and I had a chance to talk because I remember your father very well, but it will always be deeply inscribed in my life. Because in 1966, when I was ordained a rabbi, I had a job to go to. I met with the Rabbinic Select Committee of Temple Sinai in Washington, D.C., about a month before, and the committee voted to accept me as a rabbi. So the first pulpit I had was at Temple Sinai, Washington, D.C., and on the Rabbi Selection Committee was a man named Bud Levin. And so I knew your dad before you even knew your mother. But we have a unique relationship. A lot of rabbis who are in my category have a life contract. But Dan, if you had that, there's a limitation to how much time you have to put up with me. But I have a life contract and it's in the mausoleum. So you got to put up with me for eternity. But
I do too.
But all this is wonderful to talk about. In fact, Dan, your dad was a man who was involved with developing standards for buildings to make them safe in case of fire. And one of the first doctors I met with dealing with Parkinson's said to me, you're going to lose control of your parts of your body. And I have, but I kept working at it. But then he said, when he was in medical school, they said the first one out of a burning building would be a person with Parkinson's. And furthermore, he said that during the September 9th attack on the buildings in New York, the first person down 80 flights of stairs was a person with Parkinson's. And they were, without knowing it, were connected to your dad. And I had a connection with your dad that I will trust forever, and that's you. And so I say that you've taken Bethel and made it a leading synagogue that it has become. Under Rabbi Dan's tutelage, programs were established, ideas were born and put into fruition. Most notably, the establishment of the Beck Family Campus to the new idea of Jewish Ideas Incubator. Because Rabbi Dan, our local Jewish community has been strengthened, and you and your whole rabbinic staff and cantorial staff have built a place filled with hope, making Judaism approachable and firm and fun for people of all ages, not just the kids. Over the past 2 years, Rabbi Dan continued to lead this congregation during a pandemic through his thoughtfulness and spiritual leadership, always ensuring the importance of human connection. And speaking of that, now you're using the work of of television, so that we are not just speaking to you here in the sanctuary today, but we're speaking to everyone worldwide. And everyone is hearing what a relationship that we have built with work and dedication. Because of Dan, our temple members will have a strong Jewish foundation, a second home that will ensure Judaism for tomorrow, today. Mazel tov, Dan, and 25 years at Temple Beth as your friend and fellow rabbi, I remain in awe of all you have accomplished. Dan, you have become my mentor in more ways than I could list. Thank you for making this temple so great and lead it into the future. And I'm not going to end here because I told Dan I was going to give him an assignment. And that is that he is going to lead this congregation into an opportunity to bring the conservative and Reformed Jews together and create the long last, the dream that Isaac Mayer Wise, who founded Reformed Judaism, he had. He wanted American Judaism, but Dan's going to take us a step further. We're going to have Mekademet, a Judaism that says to you, learn what to do, and with God's help, you'll find the right way and be a Jewish community as you always have been through history. A community together, not divided. Amen.
I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On the screen, you will see an image from the conductor with birds soaring, flying. I want you to think back to a moment you stood with Rabbi Levin under a huppah when he married you, or when you watched him bar mitzvah your son or daughter, or traveled to Israel with him and climbed Masada.
All of the above.
These are moments when Rabbi Dan allows our hearts to soar like the birds that are soaring across the page in the conductor. Rabbi Levin takes us on a journey in every way and in the most beautiful ways. And so we travel now on the journey to the mystical city of Svat, where we welcome the Sabbath Bride with the words of the Chadodi. Please rise.
Oive Shalom, Atere Bahala, Gam Besimcha, Uvetzola, Tochem Uneam Segula,
We are not born a conductor. In the same way, you cannot be born an architect or a surgeon or a lawyer. You cannot be born a conductor, which means you start life in someone else's orchestra. So think about the orchestra of Dan's life. There is his incredible family who gave him the tallis that is inspired by that Oxman sculpture that is out in the hallway. There is the award he was presented at the gala that is also inspired, representing the community and the orchestra of this synagogue. All those books out there have scholars from history who have touched Dan. Some are no longer alive, some are thousands of years old, but some are part of the conductors that he studied with before he became conductor himself. One of those orchestras he sat in was that of the community of Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute in Religion. And it is Dr. Eugene Borowitz, with whom he worked on his thesis, whose words we read, and whose book you can look at after services, Flying, reminding us that we were once in an orchestra before we became conductor. We read together the words of Dr. Borowitz. For the Jew, religion cannot be so easily identified with the affirmation of a creed and consequently the distinction between the secular and the religious. The Jews were a people in the simple ethnic sense of that term before they met their God at Sinai, and the maintenance of that peoplehood has been critical to them in all the centuries that have followed. Therapy for the ills of contemporary Jewish life is a thoroughgoing revival of the sense of Jewish peoplehood and its expression in every cultural dimension, the natural result of a healthy Jewishness he feels would be a rebirth of Jewish piety in appropriately modern terms. We rise and continue with the Baruch Hu.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishanei itim, umachalif et hazemanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmoroteim barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, kolel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or.
Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil bein yom uvein laila, Adonai tzivaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimlocha leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, amari v'aravi. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadta. Try that with us. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha
I love reading. And so I was so excited to order this book, The Conductor, that Dan had talked about all these years, that he'd gotten as a gift that served as this metaphor. And then as you'll see from the slide on the screen and all the other slides, it is wordless. And so at first I was kind of disappointed because I love to read, and I was excited to have something to read. We rabbis often have to read for our work, and there were no words at all. But then I realized that what we do as rabbis is more than words. It is deeper than words. It must not just be about the words, but the sentiment and the spirituality behind the words. Dan is such a believing man, such a believing human being, and it is the words of Maimonides that reflect that it is more than words that matter. We read together those words on the screen. Bear in mind that by faith we do not understand merely that which is uttered with the lips, but also that which is apprehended by the soul. The conviction that is the object of belief is exactly as it is apprehended. If, as regards real or supposed truths, you content yourself with giving them in words, without apprehending them or believing in them, especially if you do not seek real truth, you have a very easy task, as in fact, you will find many ignorant people professing articles of faith without connecting any idea with them. Please rise for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated.
Love, only love with all your heart. Love, only love with all your soul. Listen to the wisdom inside and around you. You will remember as you're walking through the day. Make this world a better place. Children will learn, and their future will be love. Love, only love with all your heart. Love, only love with all your soul. Listen to the wisdom inside and around you. You will remember in your home and on your way. Make your life a voice of God. Be a sculpture for the holy. Be a doorway for love. Love, only love with all your heart. Love, only love with all your soul. Listen to the wisdom inside and around you. You will remember. You will remember. You will remember.
Our metaphor this evening comes from an act of gratitude. As Rashina said, she gifts this book often when she feels it, when she has a surge of gratitude for someone in her life. But what you need to understand about being clergy of a synagogue is that we have the gratitude for serving a congregation like this. It is unusual to stop on and reflect on what you do every day because you do it out of gratitude for all that you serve. It is the words of the Baal Shem Tov that remind us of the importance of gratitude, and that reading that we will read together is followed by perhaps the greatest song of gratitude, the Micha Mocha that was sung as God parted the Red Sea. We continue together with the words of the Baal Shem Tov. When you pray, visualize that God is invested within the letters of the prayers. You see, words are clothing for thoughts. As fine clothes bring out a person's inner beauty, so well-spoken words bring out your inner thoughts. They emerge from your personal world into the revealed world. So, too, your words of prayer provides the same sort of clothing for God's presence. If so, you should be thinking, this is a great king, and I am making clothes for him. If so, I should do this with joy. Put all your strength into those words. For this way you will attain oneness with him. Since your energy is in your articulations of each letter, and in each letter God dwells, in this way you have become one with him. We continue with Mi Chamocha.
Mi Chamocha, Hailim Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Neder Kodesh, Nohra, Tehilo,
כיפת אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל השכיבנו השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום לשלום השכיבנו השכיבנו אדוני
Dan, I just want it noted in the record that in the notes for this service, I put Dan should sing Vashamru, in my humble opinion, and it is Yismachu on the sheet. There's a cantorial revolt going on here. So we are continuing with Yismachu at this time.
Next week, Vashamru.
There you go. We continue with welcoming Shabbat with Yismachu.
We needed some high notes.
Shabbat we could sing Vishamru.
Well, we can let Dan think he would have hit that high note. What does it mean to be part of an orchestra, to be a conductor? Are you born with the skill set to be a conductor? Of course not. You have to learn from your teachers. And the same is true for us as rabbis. We might be born with certain skills or certain talents that certainly might befit us as rabbis, but it is from our teachers that we learn to be the leaders that we try to be. For those of you who are teachers, know that any teacher learns how to be a teacher from the teachers that you had when you were in school. And so, as we look at the various texts and teachers whose names are inscribed on the piece of art outside of our sanctuary, one of the names is a teacher that Rabbi Levin and I both hold closely to our hearts, someone who took to heart another instruction that we see on our wall, from our social justice wall, Lo tuchal hitalem, you cannot be indifferent. Elie Wiesel spent the entirety of his adult life teaching us not to be indifferent. The conductor sees a flock of birds. To be in a flock of birds means that you are responsible for getting yourself from point A to point B. But the flock can only travel if each bird is acutely aware of where it is in relation to all the others. And they take turns leading and following, creating the longevity and the muscle strength to get, not just from here to there, but from way over here to way over there. And the journey that we all go on to get from here to there is one that takes all of our efforts. The learning that I had the chance to do with Elie Wiesel has inspired me the entirety of my career, and I hold him as one of my teachers, Dan, as I know you do as well. And so I invite us all to reflect on this teaching from him. Just as despair can come to one only from other human beings, hope, too, can be given to one only by other human beings. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it's indifference. As we rise now for the tefillah, we stand before the Holy One to say, I am not indifferent.
Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע, מוריד אתה, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיים, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. As birds make their way from here to there, as they do their migration, they do it because of the seasons. They do it because they survive the best in certain places at certain times of the year, because thank goodness our experience, even here in Florida, there's a little bit of a change of seasons. Those seasons are different in Maryland, outside of Washington, D.C., or in New York, certainly in Chicago, where we had 2 seasons, winter and construction. Here we have humid and nice. But we are in a particularly unique season in the Jewish calendar as well. We are in the period of the Omer. And during this period of the Omer, we count the days from the day after Pesach to Shavuot, as our ancestors counted the days between the harvests, wondering, hoping, praying that the harvest that would come would be enough to let them survive through the dry season until more would grow. And so as we mark off these days, we mark it with a sense both of hope and trepidation that we will make our annual migration from Pesach to Shavuot, from Egypt to Sinai, and eventually to Israel and Gan Eden in peace and in prosperity.
אשר קדשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על ספירת העומר, היום 7 ימים שהם שבוע אחד לעומר.
7 days, which is 1 week of the Omer. With our hopes and prayers on our minds, we take a moment now for silent prayer and meditation.
Shalom Rav, a great peace. So one of the other understandings of the word shalom refers to wholeness and integration. And when I think of Rabbi Dan and his ability to be a conductor, one needs to be fully integrated and to be whole and complete. The image of the conductor with the baton, what does a conductor do when they're holding that baton? You say, well, obviously, they conduct the music. However, that baton is really part and parcel of who that individual is. And so when I think of Rabbi Levin, or when I think of Dan, I think back to our days in Israel. We had two experiences of studying, one at the Hebrew University and the other at Hebrew Union College. And it was during that time at Hebrew Union College where Dan, as he was known back in the day, your secrets are good with me, he was studying with one of his teachers, Nechama Leibovitz, who was one of the most well-known scholars and biblical commentators of the 20th century. And so as we experience Rabbi Dan as the conductor holding this baton, it is because he's connected to the truth of who he is, and he is connected to the Torah. That baton can also look like a yad. We read Torah with a yad. And so I invite you to join me in this quote by Nechama Leibovitz, thinking about our conductor and these words and this teacher who inspired him. If previously someone was like a person who sits in a car while the views fly past unseen, now they are like someone climbing a mountain with the view unfolding before them as they sweat and toil increasingly with every new ascent. Many of us read the Bible quickly, looking for a quick message of encouragement or instruction, but rigorous attention to the text reminds us of both the challenge and the richness of Scripture, calling us to careful textual interpretation. We rise for the Torah service.
Ki mitzion, tetzei Torah udvar Adonai meYerushalayim. Ki mitzion, tetzei Torah udvar Adonai meYerushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amol,
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm really overwhelmed and so grateful for all of you to be here this evening. Thank God this is the last of the things we're doing to celebrate the anniversary. I mean, my gosh, you know, this is worse than a Polish wedding. They even put me up in the chair at the gala. But I'm really, truly, and honestly humbled. And the feelings that I've been carrying over these last months of these celebrations, certainly with the celebration that we had a few weeks ago and tonight, have touched me in ways that I really don't have words to articulate. And I'm incredibly grateful for the amazing partners that I get to spend my time with here, my colleagues, my mentors, my dear, dear friends on our clergy team, on our educational staff, on our administrative team, our maintenance team. The people that I get to work with every single day are among the finest human beings I've ever known. And to be the recipient of their love tonight is a very, very special and holy, precious gift. The Torah portion which we read tonight is called Achrei Mot. It's not really one of the fun ones. And because of the strange nature of merging the Reform calendar with the diaspora calendar, we get to enjoy this Torah portion 2 weeks in a row. And when you consider the fact that before the holiday we had 2 weeks dealing with skin disease and fungus, it's amazing you all haven't moved across the street to St. Joan of Arc Catholic Church. In this week's Torah portion, we learn that following the death of Aaron's 2 older sons, Nadav and Avihu, he is in the midst of an extraordinary moment in his life during which this tragedy has struck. It is the 8th day of the celebration of the consecration of the tabernacle, and also his anointment as high priest, along with the other Kohanim, the other priests, each of his 4 sons. In the midst of this remarkable, culminating celebration of the establishment of the sacred space of the tabernacle, Aaron has to confront the horror of losing his 2 sons. And in the aftermath of that loss, he recognizes an amazing essential truth, which is that it isn't just the tabernacle that needs cleansing, it's he himself. And so the Torah relates to us that he begins by creating a new ritual called Yom Kippur. And on that day, he will not only make atonement for himself and his community, but he will take a couple of goats, one which will be offered as a sin offering and the other which will be left alive. And he will place his hands on the goat and thereby transfer all of the collective sins of himself, his family, his people, and give the goat a good smack on the tush and send it off into the wilderness, carrying away the sinful nature and trespasses of the people along with it. And what's remarkable, we'll also hear in this Torah portion, is that Aaron is required, when he participates and works in the sacred precincts of the tabernacle, to wear very special holy garments that are made of pure linen. And at the end of the whole game, it teaches that when Aaron was done with his consecration and with his work in the tabernacle, he would take off those holy garments and put on regular clothes and head back home. And I think about that because in 1996, when I was blessed to be invited to come work with Rabbi Singer and another illustrious team, some of whom are here tonight, one of the things that Rabbi Singer asked me to do was to give him my measurements, which is sort of an odd thing to be asked. And when I asked him why, he says, "We need to order you robes." It was Temple Bethel's custom at that time that the clergy would wear navy blue clergy robes that matched the carpet that you see here, which we used to faithfully call Bethel Blue. And I got to wear my blue robe each and every Shabbat when we had the opportunity to lead worship. I loved my robe because it made me feel cool. For all the years that I was in rabbinical school, my friends who had moved on to other careers would go to, like, the Colgate Club alumni events, and I would go wearing jeans and a shirt, and they'd go in their business suits because they were coming from work, and they're like, "Dan, what are you doing?" And I go, "Well, I'm in school." They're like, "Still?" So I was so excited to come here and be given a robe because it meant I had a job. It meant I had something important to do. And it was exciting when we would go into Rabbi Singer's office and we would pull our robes out of the closet and we would get ready to go and lead worship. But over time, I came to want to discard the robe. And when I returned to Temple Bethel and was invited to be Rabbi Singer's successor as senior rabbi, I told him in a private conversation that after that year of transition, we would no longer be wearing our blue robes for Shabbat. And the reason why I didn't want to wear that robe and why we don't wear robes anymore is because of a very fundamental belief of what I think it really means to be a rabbi, which is something that I learned very much from my predecessor, which is that a rabbi is simply one of many members of a congregation or a community, no greater or lesser than anyone else. In the same way that when I'm not feeling good, I find a doctor in our community with whom to consult to find out what's wrong with me, or when I need to get my taxes done, I find someone else in the community who can help me figure out the nuances of the tax code. And thank God I haven't really needed a lot of lawyers, but I would certainly consult one if I needed. The rabbi is someone with whom to consult because he's spent a lot of time or she has endeavored to learn the riches of Torah and tradition and to be able to learn how to translate text and tradition, the storehouse of our wisdom, over the centuries so that people can make good use of it in learning how to navigate our paths in life. And I didn't like the idea that the robe made me feel apart from the community. In Pirkei Avot, we're taught, Al tifrosh min hatzibur, you shall not separate yourself from the community. And I remember when I was in rabbinical school, I had a mentor with whom I worked who told me, "You know, Dan," she said, "you really can't be friends with your congregants." And I said, "Well, why not?" And she said, "Well, you have to keep your distance, you have to be able to serve them, and you can't necessarily be friends with them." And over time, I realized, though she taught me an awful lot of wisdom during my year as her intern, that was a piece of truth that I rejected. You see, when Amy and I were on the move looking around in 1996 to try to find a job, we really weren't looking as much for a job as we were looking for a shul. We were looking for a congregation with whom we wanted to pray. We were looking for a community in which we wanted to root ourselves. We were looking for people to be not just our colleagues, but our friends. And over these last many years that I have been truly blessed to be part of this congregation and community, Temple Bethel has become our shul. It is the place where we have celebrated the most important moments of our lives. That cute young man that you saw lead candles in Kiddush, and thank God, for the 7 years that he spent at Jewish day school. That's a lot of money coming to fruition right there on the screen. Was named on this bima by that man over there, as was my daughter Meredith. Ellie was born when we were in New Jersey, and it's wonderful to see some friends from Temple Emmanuel of West Essex who are here with us tonight, where she made our family complete. And when we came back to Temple Bethel in 2004, Temple Bethel became the place where our children attended preschool, where they not only studied in religious education, but celebrated their B'nai Mitzvah and confirmations. It is here in the embrace of this community that both Amy and I have mourned our losses, both in person and virtually. Each and every moment of my life has been consecrated because of the relationships I share with all of you. In Kabbalistic practice, each of the days of the Omer are married between some of what are called the Sfirot, the emanations of light that constitute the vessels holding God's presence. And on this seventh day of the Omer, we are taught that the two Sfirot, the two essences of the Holy One that are wed with each other tonight are Chesed, compassion, and Shekhinah, that essence of God that we encounter in the holy moments of our lives. In Chesed, we're taught loving kindness is what we cultivate and how we experience God when we open our hearts as wide as we possibly can to share the fullness of our spirits with the other. And that is what brings God's presence, not simply to places like Mount Sinai, but also to here. What I shared with our friends, and many of you were there a few weeks ago when we gathered for a night of celebration, is that I truly believe that God's presence is found in the sacred bonds of love that are shared in holy relationship. It is why when you walk into this synagogue, the first thing I wanted everyone to see was an expression of love of each other, love of the stranger, love of the Holy One. It's why I wanted that symbol of the swirl of light of the Shekhinah to be in almost every single piece of art that you will see leading you from the front door into this sacred space, and now emanating from the letter Bet in this beautiful Birkat HaLev, this blessing of the heart that now adorns our sanctuary. It is because in 1996, when I came here, I learned from an extraordinary leader and rabbi what it really means to practice applied love. Maya Angelou said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And Rabbi Singer taught me that that is truly the only thing that really matters in rabbinic life, helping people to feel a sense of connection, not simply with each other, but also with the Holy One. And that is what I think Aaron was trying to do in this week's portion. I think he was trying to figure out how he, as the high priest, could be a conduit between his people and the Holy One. And so he realized that while those special garments that he would wear helped him to conduct that holy priestly service, all was said and done, he was just an Israelite like any other. And that the best way for each of us to feel a sense of God's presence is not when we set ourselves apart from community, but when we are a part of community. And I know that I speak on behalf of Amy and our children when I tell you what an incredible blessing it has been to me to be a part of this community. I've been blessed, as you have heard tonight, to be the conductor of this grand orchestra and to be surrounded with such incredibly talented musicians who create such holy sound, where I get to stand in the center and to be the one who hears it first and to help to guide them in interpreting the sacred sounds of what are the texts and rituals of our tradition is a privilege for which I am sure I am not adequately deserving, but one for which I say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hatov v'hametiv. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, for all of the God who is goodness and for all the goodness that God has given to me. Shabbat shalom. I believe, well, you're going to do that.
It's just awkward. We invite now to the Aliyah, to the reading of Torah, Amy Levin.
Baruch
asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayedaber Adonai, whoops, I need that too. Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe acharei mot shnei v'nei Aharon b'korvatam. And God spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron when they were laid to rest, lifnei Adonai, when they brought their offering before God, vayamutu, and then they died there. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, and so God said to Moses, Daber el Aharon achicha, speak to Aaron your brother, ve'al yavo bechol et el hakodesh mi beit la parochet, el panei ha-kipporet, asher al ha'aron. And he says, you may not come ever, at any time, to the holy place in the tent of meeting, in the bayit, in the house, where the curtain before the holy separating thing that is at the aron, the altar. V'lo yamut, therefore you will not perish. Ki ve'nan er'eh al ha'kipporet bezot yavo Aharon el hakodesh. When the cloud lifts, then you will be permitted to enter into that sacred space. Bekofer ben bakar, and in order to do that, you will bring an ox lechatat as a sin offering, va'ayil le'olah, and a ram for a burnt offering. Ketonet bad, and when you do this, you shall wear a robe of pure linen, kodesh, that is holy. Yilbash yemichnes sevad, all of these garments that you will wear will be made of linen. You al besaro, linen breeches you shall have around your groin. Ba'avnet bad yachgur, b'mitznefet bad yitznof, you shall have a linen sash along with a linen headdress. Yitznof bigdei kodesh, these are holy garments. Verachatz b'mayim et bisaro, you shall wash with water before you dress. Ulvasham, and then you can adorn yourself with them. Ume'et edat b'nei Yisrael yikach shnei sa'arei izim, and from amongst the community of the children of Israel you shall take 2 goats, lechatat, one which you use, izim lechatat, one which you use for a sin offering, va'ayil echad le'olah, and another one, the ram that you use for a burnt offering. V'ikriv Aharon et par hachatat, and Aaron will offer up the bull for the sin offering, asher lo, that he had with him. V'chiper ba'ado, thus he will have effected atonement for himself. Uva'ad beito, and also for his household. V'lekach et shnei ha'se'arim se'arim yahemid otam lifnei Adonai. And so you take these 2 other goats and you bring them before God. Petach ohel moed, at the entrance of the tent of meeting. V'natan Aharon al, and Aaron shall place. How are we doing? Good. On the 2 goats, on shnei sneirim goralot, 2 purim, 2 lots. Goral echad ladonai, one that will show that this goat is for God. V'goral echad la'azazel, that this one is going to be sent for Azazel. V'ikriv Aharon et haseir asher olah alav hagoral ladonai. So Aaron will sacrifice the goat that has the lot on it for God. V'asahu chatat, thus he shall make a sin offering. V'aseir asher olah alav hagoral la'azazel, but the one that is asked to remain alive, that is going to be sent to Azazel, yatmod chai lifnei Adonai lechaper alav. And thus the goat will be sent to Azazel. It will be left alive before God in order to effect atonement for him.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan bechotenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yishaberach Avatenu v'cham Yitzhak v'Yaakov v'imotenu Sarah Rivka Leah v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel, send blessings on you to the Aliyah, to the reading of Torah. What an incredible partner you have been. What an incredible helpmate you have been in these many years. There has been so many times when you have held everything together while I was off doing other things. It is because of you that I have been so blessed to help to lead this congregation. There is nothing that I have done or accomplished that isn't because of you. There is no word that I have ever offered on the high holidays that didn't pass your very careful eye. But mostly, I am so blessed to have you as my partner and my guide and my counsel and my best friend. And together may we go from strength to strength. Amen. Amen.
So there is a blessing that you say when a teacher of Torah has concluded a lesson. That blessing is known as Kadish Rabbanaan. It is a version of the Kiddush that calls upon the teachers and their teachers and their students and their students. And so I invite everyone to please rise and turn to page 90. For all of the Torah that we have learned and all the Torah that you have taught in this congregation, we say together, Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei rabbah, be'alma divrach l'rutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudsha b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan, ve'al Talmidehon, ve'al kol Talmidehon, ve'al kol man askin be'oraita, di v'atra hadain v'di b'chol atar v'atar. Yehei lohon ulchon shlamuraba, china v'chista v'rachamin, v'chayin arichin, mizonei ravichei, Purkana min kodem avuhon, diva shmaya va'ara v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. If we can turn back to page 91 and read an interpreted translation together. For our teachers and their students, and the students of the students, we ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say Amen. And for those who study Torah here and everywhere, may they be blessed with all they need, and let us say Amen. We ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say Amen.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה.
May the God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bring the gift of refuah shlema, of healing of mind, of body, and of spirit, to those in our families and our community who are suffering from illness and for injury. Tonight we think of and pray for the healing of Marlene Aaron, Benita Appel, Fred Belkin, Mike Blackman, Margie Berman Block, Kathleen Bowersox, Dorothy Buxbaum, Ed Burns, Ed Cantor, Stephen Danitz, Richard Diamond, Jay Eichler, Arnold Erne, Esther Tehilabas, Ariela Tipora, Larry Feidelman, Rhonda Finlay, Raven Holzer Frankel, Marty Fromowitz, Marcia Gerson, Larry Guys, Jake Goldstein, Rona Guberman, Marcia Hoffman, Keith Homer, Mirtha Kaplan, Mitch Kaplan, Deanna Katz, Judy Kornitsky, Joni Kramer, Rita Lokitz, Steve Lyons, Marba Mallet, Barbara Morris, Beverly Nash, Michael Penn, Milton Plotzker, Norma Palchek, Nancy Prophet, Jackie Robinson, Jeffrey Romer, Ron Rose, Eileen Rosenbaum, Alan Rosenfeld, Jim Satovsky, Jamie Schaefer, Madeline Siegel, Mark Sosin, Leah Sopraner, Bobby Warden, and Joan Weidenfeld. If there are others for whom you're praying for healing this evening, please share their name with us as we go around the congregation. Those of you joining us virtually, call your loved ones to mind now as we say, Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. We praise you, Adonai, who helps bring healing to the sick. Standing and turn to page 282 for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula le'oseh breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'go
My pleasure to invite up our Temple's VP of Religious Activities, Aileen Fisher, to deliver announcements and greetings from on behalf of the Board of Trustees.
Shabbat Shalom. This was just a beautiful service this evening, conducted by our clergy. I felt with so much love and compassion, not only for Rabbi Levin, but for all of us. Okay, here we go. Ari, if you're still there, great candles and Kiddush blessing. Thank you very much, Amy, for beautiful Torah blessings. On Friday, May 6th, we have our all-time favorite Shabbat, Blue Jeans Shabbat. It's celebrating Israel, May 6th, and you should wear your favorite blue jeans and rock out to an Israeli-themed evening celebrating our Jewish homeland. It's the early service, so it's a 6 p.m. service, and it will be followed by a delicious Israeli-inspired Shabbat dinner. Registration for the dinner must be made by April 29th at the tbeboca.org Blue Jean Shabbat. Hope to see you there. On Wednesday, May 4th, we are this is really going to be good. We are proud to host a special screening of the movie Upheaval, the story of Menachem Begin. Filmmaker Jonathan Gruber and producer Jeffrey Goldberg will join us to discuss the compelling documentary. This complimentary showing is underwritten by the generosity of Jeffrey and Nicole Goldberg, producers of Upheaval. Learn more and register to attend again at tbeboca.org. Sunday, May 8th, Brotherhood Mother's Day brunch from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. here at the Schaefer Family Campus. Please go to tbeboca.org to register for that. That's always a really nice event. Enrollment for the 2022-2023 religious school year is open. Visit tbe.org, religious/school for tuition information, registration deadlines, and to learn more about some exciting new programs for next year. We hope to see you for Oneg and to schmooze with the clergy and with friends. And then as you make your way out through the Welcome Center, please stop by our tzedakah box and consider a contribution to our tzedakah funds. Our Social Action Committee disperses those funds to local nonprofits to support the important work, their important work. Visit tbeboca.org for information about all of these programs and other events. There's so many events going on. Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful weekend.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to add one more announcement. Next week, Friday, April 29th, we will be joined by Aaron Kula and his klezmer company jazz quartet for a commemoration of Shabbat and the Shoah, and speaking that evening will be survivor Frida Jaffe. It will be a beautiful, meaningful service. So I hope you can all join us next week at 7:30.
Some of you may have been to a Shiva Minyan that Dan was leading where there were children present. And often in that context, he speaks of a metaphor to help those children contextualize what it means to lose someone that you love. And he entitled this Memory and Play-Doh. You know when you are little and you play with Play-Doh? You know what it's like when you get a new can, it's pure blue or red or yellow, it's soft and it feels so good. And then you play. And as you play, some of the red gets mixed up with the yellow, and some of the yellow gets mixed in with the blue. And when you finish, you can never really get it all out. Some of the red stays in the yellow. Some of the yellow is always there in the blue. So imagine as if God was this infinitely huge piece of Play-Doh. And when you are born, God takes a piece of whatever God is and sticks it in you. They call that your soul. It's the part of you that gives you your ideas, your cares, your capacity to feel and to love. It's what makes you, you. As you live, you share your love with other people. And as you share your love, it's like you take a piece of you and stick it in the people you love. And they take a piece of them and stick it in you. So if you were to look at your soul, your inner Play-Doh, you see it's pretty marbled. Most of it is pure you, but there are a lot of different colors in there. There are pieces of your parents, your grandparents, and your siblings, your best friends. For those of us who are older, we carry pieces of the people we haven't seen in a long, long time. So when we die, we go back to where we came from. The part of us that came from the earth, our bodies and physical parts, goes back to the earth. The part of us we can't see and touch that came from God, our spiritual selves, our souls, goes back to God. But just like that Play-Doh, the pieces of those we love, we get to keep. They stay part of us forever. As we reach in to pull and touch those parts of those as you move forward with your life, you share your love with others, and some of what you share of yourself is really a piece of each of those you carry inside. In that way, they not only enrich and bless your life, through you they enrich and bless the lives of everyone you touch. as we touch those parts of ourselves that are really the parts of others whom we've loved and lost. We think of those who brought us joy and celebration in our own lives. As is our custom, if you were at a period of mourning or observing a yard site, we invite you to rise as the name of your loved one is recalled. Tonight, at the yard site, the anniversaries of their passing, we remember Mo J. Annapel, Annette Arazi, Albert Aaron, Clara Ash, Anna Beitscher, Jacob Ben Ruby, Ben Birkenwald, Jewel Berzon, Sonny Bloom, Rose Bloom, Harry Bloom, Sarah Brooks, Aaron Cohen, Esther Cohen, Diana Cohen, Stephen Korn, Gertrude Deutsch, Richard Diamond, Lloyd Doctor, Max Dorfman, Fred Englert, Leah Epstein, Beatrice Falk, Bernie Feinstein, Pincus Fingerhut, Herman Fink, Richard Fisher, David Foreman, Florence Friedman, Max Garber, Dr. Sanford Glanz, Martin Gold, Helen Kaufman Goldman, Emily Gordon, Fern Grayer, Abraham Grunwald, Jancy Grunwald, Herbert Harris, Dorothy Heller, Helene Herskowitz, Norman Holtz, Leonard Jensky, Hyman Kaplan, Leonard Kirker, Louis Mitchell Kesselman, Stanley Kulik, Irene Kornblath, Walter Kramer, Norma Kramer, Beatrice Kramer, Dr. Hal B. Lesser, Rona Levy, Batya Mallet Klein, Miriam Melman, Jack Menahem, Dr. Morris Mintz, Harry Orkin, Rose Perel, Samuel Pilot, Lillian Pinsky, Harry Pateska, Anna Rabimovitz, Lenore Rashkow, Rose Reich, Melrod Ritter, William A. Rose, Philip Rose, Richard Rosenblum, Charles D. Rosenfeld, Anna Rubin, Louis Sackar, Harry Sack, Melvin Schneider, Lois Schwartz, Beatrice Shear, Louise Sheehy, David Sheldon, Sandra Siegel, Ida Muffson Silver, Ann Singer, Jack Singer, David Sloan, Audra Sokoloff, Saul Solomon, Lillian Stewart, Lillian Traubman, Lillian Van Wy, Bernice Cordover Warburg, Isidore Weber, Florence Weiss, Albert Weitzman, Augusta Westheim, Arnold Winokur, and Genia Zaleski. And those who passed in the last 30 days, we remember Myra Cohen, David Clark, Arnold Putterman, Alan Utstein, Madeline Arbisfeld, Barry Sterneck, Edith Markle, Mildred Barinholtz, Dr. Joel Niznik, Paul Berkowitz, Phyllis Katchker, Sonia Schwimmer, Pearl Shapiro, Clarence Coulter, and Leonard Kirker. If there are others for whom you are saying Kaddish this evening, we invite you to rise now and share the name of your loved one as we go around the congregation. Those of you joining us virtually, we invite you to call the name of your loved one to mind at this time as well. We rise now as a community and turn to page 294. As together we say the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit ale, v'yit halal, shemei dekudsha, brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, huya asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, V'imru, amen. May the one who sends peace from the high heavens send peace to all of us and comfort the bereaved among us as together we say, amen.
Special thanks to Rabbi Jessica for putting this beautiful service together. It was just so well thought of and touching. Such an honor to have Rabbi Pessa with us and Rabbi Singer. Always wonderful for you to join us on this bima. Special thanks to our musicians, to Jeff and James and to Vindia, to Ron and Raymond and Kira behind the scenes. Let's all join together in the words of Od Yavo. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.